You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers!
When recovery gets real, the truth gets messy. Today's guest is a bold and brilliant voice in contemporary fiction. Please welcome Linda Dahl, the author of Tiny Vices, a deeply layered novel that blends wit, wisdom, and raw vulnerability to explore the unspoken struggles women face, especially those hiding in plain sight. Put your hands together and welcome Linda to the show. Thank you so much, Linda, for joining me on this episode of On the Air with Florenza, where we are going to discuss your beautiful book, Tiny Vices. Before we dig in, I do want the listeners to know that I am so glad that you're on with me, even though you're recovering almost from a cold.
Yes.
Oh,
So I sound a bit froggy. Yes.
I said before we came on the air that you kind of had that little sexy, little raspiness going on with the little fade. So
It's the
I
Lord of the
don't know.
Fall thing.
I love it. Before we get started, we're going to toast to a fantastic show. I saw you with a glass earlier, and were you drinking water or were you like some of my guests hiding your vodka in a water glass?
But yeah, no, I'm drinking water.
Well, cheers.
And there's a whole story behind that I won't go into, but it may came up later in our questions.
Uh-oh, we'll see about that. And for
Ah,
my listeners who are used to me having some type of alcoholic beverage, today I'm actually just having lemonade. It's an organic lemonade. I was traveling for the last couple weeks and I think I overpartied. So we're just going with lemonade. But I have this really cool Ingleside glass that I got from the Ingleside winery in it's Colonial Beach, Virginia. If you've never been there, you owe a trip. It is a hidden gem. It was like going back in time. It was phenomenal.
oh.
Yes, that's my free commercial plug to Ingleside Winery. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about Tiny Vices.
Tell you a little about me. Well, this is my 10th published book. And I think it's my 6th, maybe 5th novel.
Okay.
And so I love writing fiction, but for years I wrote nonfiction and mostly wrote about women in jazz. That's where I started really my first books. And but the thing is that what has always been the case is that my writing is very character driven.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the character. I would say to the point that plot is secondary to character, or you could say that the characters, as it were, lead you into the woods and you follow them. So I've written a lot, for good or for bad. And this particular book, what did you want to know about Tiny Vices again?
Oh, just lead us into the story, and we're going to ask some questions that's going to take us deeper. But just the overview of Tiny Vices and what prompted you to write this story now.
Ah, not an easy question to answer, I don't think. But really, I think what happened was in my life, some years ago, there were a series of events in my family that were, as happens in families, as happens to everyone, that in which there were sort of catastrophic illnesses, crises of different kinds, and the way, and I'm the oldest of 5 children. Anyway, the way that that the book came about was that it's not autobiography,
Okay.
but it was definitely inspired, if you will,
Yeah.
by certain things that happened in the family and the way that people. I was very interested too in the way that when we're under a great deal of pressure, um, of all kinds,
Yeah.
and particularly with siblings, there's that special relationship in among siblings. You're not friends, you're not lovers, but there's an intimacy that's like no other. They
Yeah.
know you in a way that's, well, we all know this. And so the way you rub against each other and the way you can, mm, if you're not careful sometimes, um, the abrasiveness that can happen, the resentments that can pool and build up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was also interested in the way that people find to reconnect. The small things. This is why I call it tiny vices,
Yeah.
because it's these paper cuts, if you will, those small. Sometimes, did you ever, like, once I stepped on a little tiny shard, I broke a glass in the kitchen, swept it all up, but of course there was one little tiny shard, and it got stuck in my foot, and my goodness,
The
and
pain.
I ended up at the foot doctor's 2 or 3 times before he got it all settled. Just the most minor thing,
Yep.
and how that can affect us. So that's what really kind of motivated me and drove the story.
Wonderful. And I love this cover. It's so mysterious. First, the color selection was spectacular. Did you have very much input into the cover, or did the team just kind of take that over and let you focus on the writing aspect?
He had some feedback about it, and what they were interested in is there's a kind of separate story in the book. There is a mystery, if you will, in which the main character has been avoiding dealing with a traumatic event that
Yeah.
is not really explained or understood.
Uh-huh.
And so that kind of uh, this figure in represents the ominous memory and
Oh,
the
yeah.
ominous event that occurred.
To Kathy, right?
Character. Yes, it's the catalyst for a lot of her behavior too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Kathy being the oldest, I too am the oldest of
Oh,
four.
okay.
And my husband often talks about my communication skills with my siblings. And we take on that almost second parenting role with them, And so sometimes we are a bit crass or a bit abrasive or not as gentle. But man, I was gentle when they were little. Now that they're adults, they should have learned what I was trying to teach them. No more nice guy. Get this ish together. So, I love the reviews that your book have received. Kirkus calls Tiny Vices wise and simmering. How do you capture that delicate balance between midlife tensions and deep compassion and just bring it together so beautifully?
I guess it's just a lot. I don't have an easy answer for that. I think it's just being very attentive as a writer to the details,
Yeah.
because that's where it all really happens.
Mhm.
And without giving away the plot, because I really would hope that people would want to read it,
Yeah.
you know, um, it's finding that even with, and there's a brother in the book who is
Pete.
Pete,
Yeah. He has issues.
Pete is unique.
He is so unique.
Pete, let's put it this way, Pete lives in his head. No, a lot of us live in our head,
Yeah.
but Pete has moved all the furniture into his head. Pete is not going outside of his head. And
He is not.
so it's kind of being very careful and a lot of rewriting, I must say, a lot of rewriting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it was a balance in getting Pete's issues in such a way that we were sympathetic to him because he's so charming, right? And just so adorable at the same time of knowing that he has these struggles. In keeping with the reviews, forward mentions repressed trauma resurfacing at Reese. Oh, I practiced that word and just Rincon, Rincon Bay. Now, how did Kathy's journey back to her past help you explore memory and healing?
Because I think this draws on my own experience, but a lot too, and things that I've gone through, and that I know a lot of people have gone through. Is I think that the it's the thing that must be done, even though it's the thing that basically human beings want to avoid,
Yeah.
is facing the truth.
Yep.
And as they say, the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
Yet there's this aspect of human nature
Mhm.
that makes us want to avoid facing something that we know is painful,
Mhm.
not understanding that that pain can also have, when we're healing, there's pain.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're gonna get through it,
Yeah.
and it is gonna pass.
Mhm.
And Kathy, at last, and I mean, she finally ends up going to a therapist, as we know in the book.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helps push her along, realizes I really have to finally deal with something that
Mhm.
happened. This happened to her when she was, I believe, 18 or 19.
Mhm.
And interestingly, and don't want to give it away, but the question is, does she get a complete answer?
Mm.
I will leave that for the reader, but I will say that by taking the action, she finds herself empowered, I think,
Yeah.
in a new
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I love how she went from not so much as victim, but being bound by that memory to taking control of it. And that was just such a powerful element in there. Readers note rich complexity and crammed complexities in a brief novel. How did you decide what to include and leave out in this compact family reunion?
not a conscious decision for me when I write.
Mm,
It's more of, I guess I would compare it to um, music,
yeah.
making music, which is, my second love. I'm thinking about, for instance, well, in this case, a jazz composition, a solo. As you go along, the notes, if you will, the notes of the story
Mhm.
just take you where you're supposed to go. And sometimes, of course, since it is writing, you can't go back and rewrite it. That's for
Uh-huh.
sure. If you're up, it's too much of a blind alley. But I found that if there was this multi-voiced dialogue, is that the word, among the characters, and that was what was leading them, propelling them forward.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, as a writer, I go with it. I follow the image where it takes me.
In the book, the setting, the town, was just as much a character as the actual characters. What was it about this town that you chose to be the site for the reunion?
It's interesting. It, a lot of my family ended up moving to Arizona, and Tucson, Arizona is where several family members went, not the whole group, big family. But so I spent a lot of time visiting. It was perfect when I was young. You have no money, you go stay with your
Yeah.
sister or your brother. And so I got to know Tucson, which is over the last decades.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a very fascinating place on its own. It's been the center, and I can't pronounce the Indian tribe. I never can. That was there most of the time. But it's been a center of agriculture and commerce for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And until then, the Spanish came along, and then the Mexicans came along, and then the Americans came along. But it is still very indigenous in
Mhm.
its roots. And, they built thousands of miles of canals in order to promote agriculture in the region. So it's an ancient civilization. And it's a very happening small town. It always has been. There's lots of things to see and do in Tucson.
Yeah.
I'm a promoter.
Nice. I love that. The caregiving subplot in issues like addiction, Alzheimer's give the story emotional depth. How did your background in nonfiction inform these characters?
Well, my computer froze right at the beginning. It does this sometimes, I'm sorry to say, at the beginning of your question, when you
Okay.
mentioned caregiver, the
Uh-huh.
caregiver for Alzheimer's, could you just fill that in?
Yeah, no, I can do that. So the caregiving subplot and issues like addiction and Alzheimer's gives the story emotional depth. How did your
Okay.
background in nonfiction inform these characters?
Well, in terms of addiction, I do know a lot about addiction. I know it because it's part of my own history, it's part of my family history, and I did write a book. Did a lot of research on it because I had a child who had an addiction problem, and
Hmm.
it was I discovered that big surprise, that a lot of treatment, not just for addiction, but for many illnesses, a lot of the research that's been done historically, they left women out of the picture
Mm.
for a bunch of reasons. A lot of times it's because of our hormones,
Yeah.
and it was more difficult to measure, I guess, scientifically things, but it was also just because men were seen as the template.
Yeah.
But you find that women in particular, they talk about fight or flight, for instance, when in a traumatic situation. But there is something else that accompanies that for women, which is called tend and befriend.
Mm.
This is not something that is necessarily so you see this tend and befriend thing becomes very important also in dealing with the characters of the novel in Tiny Vices, where there are three sisters, three women. And this is something that women now treatment I think is better for addiction than it used to be, but there's still a long way to go. So I know a lot about that. Alzheimer's I picked up on the fly. I did my research, but goodness knows, I think I just read that there are something like, and I can't remember, but more than 50 million people worldwide suffering from some kind of dementia.
Hmm.
And then you have all the caregivers. Add in another, what, few million
Yeah.
people. So this is a topic. I mean, almost everybody I know says to me, "Oh, my aunt or my
Yes.
grandfather."
Hmm.
So I felt that this was a very timely thing too. And I also wanted to honor my sister who did have early onset Alzheimer's and who has since passed away
Mm.
and who was 2 years younger than me. So we were very close growing up.
Oh,
And this is not a portrait of her, but it is an homage to her.
yeah. Were she still living in a capacity to comprehend? What do you think she'd say about your character, Karina?
That's a great question. Well, she was a feisty person. She might have, if she were her, let's call it her real self,
Uh-huh.
I think she would probably pick a bone or two with me about certain details. But overall, I think she would agree that it was a pretty fair characterization of what it's what it's like for somebody who's living
Hmm.
with that illness. Yes.
Nice. Talk to me a little bit about why a vacation was a great setting to have this pot over boil with all of what was going on with the family.
Again, the story the story insisted on it as I was writing it, and I'm like, well, what do you think? What? But it seemed like there was this slightly sentimental tinge to it. There was also this drive by the siblings to be together one last time, come hell or high water.
Yeah.
Let's do this. We got to do this. And they all felt it in their own way, even though they also rebelled against it in their own
Yeah.
way too. So it seemed to me, let's do it, and that this will be where we'll let the chips fall where they may,
Yeah.
which they did.
Now, we talked a little bit about Kathy being the oldest and about Becca, about Karina and Pete. Tell us a little bit about Becca. She's that anxious mother of a troubled teen, and she is just balancing like everything. Her role, as I was reading, it takes on more of that middle child type syndrome that you hear people talk about. And, they're usually silent, but at the same time, when they do speak, their voice is so projected. Talk to us about the power that Becca brings to the story.
Well, I thought that she's kind of a person that could be easy to overlook, but she seems to me to be kind of, in a way, a linchpin of the family.
Yeah.
She, she always does what she needs to do. And I kept, I felt myself longing for her to have more space, more freedom, more time.
Yeah.
I started to feel like this, not sorry for her, but just, it was kind of like she was a very poignant character for me to write. Surprisingly, I surprised myself
Oh.
writing her. And she does. She comes out at those moments and she can be the one who says, listen, this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Even her older siblings listen to her.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
She takes care, I think of her, she takes care of business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that because so many people can identify with that. Now, I know that you aren't really a social media person, but you do your post on Facebook with the rest of us baby boomers. And you're working on something new. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Hey, I have two different projects. One is I'm excited about, which is nonfiction.
Okay.
It's going to be a revised and updated version of a biography I wrote that came out 25 years ago of the great jazz pianist and composer Mary Lou Williams,
Okay.
who is just phenomenal as a human being, so interesting to write about, and as a musician. So that's one. And the other thing is I'm writing I'm writing kind of historical fiction. And the idea came to me from my family. One of my great grandmothers in 1904
Wow.
got a divorce. And this was something that was never talked about in the family,
Uh-huh.
but look, bits and pieces would come through the way they do here and there. And it so intrigued me. I was always intrigued by it. And all of a sudden I thought, well, I'm just going to write this book. Why did she get a divorce? What was it like to go through that? How was she able to live after that?
Yeah.
Um, there was something like I've done a lot of research. There's in 1904 in this country, there were something like 1,000 divorces in the whole country.
Oh, wow.
But there was also, it was really interesting. Back in the day, back in the Wild West days, a little before that, in the late 1800s, later, there were some what they called divorce colonies,
Oh,
places where people could go. These were in like newly formed states that had very loose laws. And I think it was more of a money-making thing.
uh-huh.
But you could go, it was much easier to get a divorce. And even, I mean, of course, wealthy people can get a divorce. We know that
Right.
if they really wanted to. But I'm talking about for your
Average.
middle and maybe working class,
Mm-hmm.
most of them being women, because you didn't have to provide a tremendous amount of, evidence about whatever. One of the things so that's one thing I'm working on. It's a multi-generational saga and how this event, this divorce, resonates down the generations. Uh,
Fascinating.
yeah, thank you.
Fascinating. Now, did Tato pop up while we were reading? I'm talking, your cat.
Oh, Kitaro?
Yeah.
No, he must be sleeping, thank goodness, for the moment.
Yeah, so for the listeners, this little new one, he misunderstood the component of enjoying a good book because he actually walks around eating the good books instead of reading the books.
Tearing out the pages from the middle when you put them down,
Uh-huh.
this is his favorite activity.
Wonderful. Now, we're at the part where we're just going to ask a few questions to end the interview. So take a sip of water because I know you've been talking a bit.
Thank you.
And I am going to limit this to let's just one or two questions. Let me see what my best one is. Ooh, what's your go-to comfort food when writing emotional scenes? Is it beach tacos or brownie sundaes?
Number two,
You're a sweet girl. You love sweets.
I am a sweet freak. I love to bake, unfortunately. Yes, I do. I like sweets.
Ooh, what's your favorite thing to bake?
Well, in the summertime, I like to make peach cobbler, I have to say, and key lime pie.
Key lime pie is my favorite. I'm
Uh,
not a sweet girl, but I will go bananas over key lime. So I just need to find my way to you when you're making one of those.
I have the best recipe too.
Oh, I'll let you send that to me.
Uh,
And finish this sentence. If Tiny Vices had a theme song, it would be blank by blank. What song would be the theme
oh
song
my
to Tiny
goodness.
Vices?
Um, I know it's going to be a jazz tune, and I'm thinking it's going to be something by Thelonious Monk,
Ooh.
but I'm drawing a blank right now about what would the name of it be. Ki- you caught me with that one. I'm sorry.
Well, you have so many options to choose from being a lover of music. So I think that was kind of a tricky question for
It
someone
was.
that loves music. Okay, try this one. Of all your fiction or nonfiction characters, if you were to have a reunion of sorts or a get together, which of your characters would show up and cause a scene? And which of the characters would just sit there eating their key lime pie, enjoying all the fireworks?
Well, you mean in all my fiction that I've written?
You could, or you can just limit it to those in Tiny Vices.
Okay. Well, I think Pete would cause a scene. I see Pete, as being the guy who is very skilled at that.
Yes.
And I think we didn't talk about some of the secondary characters, but I think Bernard, for instance, husband of Kathy,
Yeah.
would sit there eating his key lime pie. And I think Becca's husband would, whose name I'm drawing a blank on now, isn't that awful?
Uh-huh.
He would sit there next to Bernard with his key lime pie, and they'd be looking at each other like,
We married into this nonsense.
here they go again. And meanwhile, I think the sisters, each in their own way, would try to get Pete to stop it.
Uh-huh.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Thank you so much, Linda, especially with you being a bit under the weather for interviewing with me. I look forward to reading more of your books and getting caught up on some of the ones that I am not familiar with. And I hope that you have tremendous success
Thank you,
with
Florenza.
Tiny Vices, because this is a fantastic, fantastic novel. And
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Florenza, so much. So much fun to talk with you.
Oh, thank you.
I'll send you the key lime pie recipe.
Please do. I look forward to it.
Okay, it's easy to make.
Thank you.
All right.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.